You're listening to the Reinvest Podcast, where each Tuesday we show business owners and entrepreneurs how to diversify into real estate by equipping you with the tools and tactics to build generational wealth. Your hosts, Garrett Gatton and Seth Ciminillo. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Reinvest Podcast. No Seth today. Seth had a baby, number 4. And he's adding to the Ciminillo clan. They were hoping for a girl, didn't get it, but that's okay. Baby's healthy. We got a great episode in for today. And our guest today from California, about as far away from Ohio as you can hope to get, is Brian Tran. Brian, how you doing on the show today, man?
Oh, my goodness. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. It's going to be an impactful one. We're going to dive deep, and I'm no fluff, all value.
We were talking about the Genesis story, and I always like to jump right in just because when you've been in real estate investing, what I've seen and what I love is when you can get a lot of reps in a short amount of time, right? Because you can compress that learning gap into a shorter time horizon than doing something just kind of kicking at it, trying at it, and everybody has a different on-ramp that way. But Brian, you're pretty active on social media. You've got some different things going. So why don't you give our listeners who don't know you a high level of what you're doing in real estate?
Yeah. So my name is Brian Tran. I'm based right here in the San Francisco Bay Area, so one of the most expensive markets. And I'll tell you something. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, just like New York, right? Because you don't have much room to fail. You got to make money and you got to make it fast. Otherwise, it's very hard to get anywhere in the Bay Area. High level, my parents are they fled Vietnam when the war had happened and everything collapsed, and so they're immigrants. I came here. I was born here, actually, so very lucky. God bless America, this country, opportunities that it's been able to give us. But I saw them struggle, and I worked so hard. And come here, American dream is to own real estate, and I just took that ideology and I ran with it, and I never looked back. Luckily, I'm not a great student, and so there was no way I was going to become a lawyer like my dad wanted me to be, and no way I was going to be a doctor like what my mom wanted me to be, because let's face it, I don't like school. But real estate, my last quarter of when I was at UC San Diego, I got my real estate license. I said, you know what? We're going to sell.
What year was that?
2012-ish.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So at the bottom of the market.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it was rebounding and things were moving. At least we had activity.
Yeah.
Right. And so, again, 21 years old, fresh out of college, jumped into the space. It was hard. It was, I got my butt kicked. In my first year, I was lucky. I made $30,000. Right. Probably could have made more working at Walmart or McDonald's even, because our minimum wage is in California. But you talked about compressing time and going kind of all in, just trying to try and that stuff. And I that resonates with me. That's kind of how I operate. When my mind gets stuck on something, I go all in. I consume, and I'll do whatever it takes to be successful at it. Now, when it came to real estate and being a realtor, it took about 5 years before my business really took off. And
a lot of people don't
I would say
that.
even then that was fast.
There's a lot There's a lot of clickbait out there that makes you think that, you're just going to make a bunch of money and fall into it right away. It's very competitive, especially in a large market like what you're talking about. People who have been doing it far longer than you have, right? And then 2, when you have knowledge, you know how to move faster in the market. And so you're paying that tuition of time and ignorance, which, you have to pay your dues, right? There's a way you can kind of compress that, but it really does take about 5 years to really get some traction. I would say in anything personally, but I don't know.
I agree with you 1,000%. And I actually have a few case studies, believe it or not. And it's always the 5-year marks that at the 5-year mark that the business really starts to blow up. But there are things that you can compress time. You can hire a coach. You can get good mentors. You can get around winners. You can get around top producers. This is an investing podcast. So if you want to get into investing, your friends, your 5 people that you hang out with must be in that space, and they must be doing it at a very high level. And so fast forward a little bit more, that 5th year kind of came around, and I looked back and I'm like, wow, we're doing pretty darn good here, right? And I tell this story often, but I used to go to every single closing when when the buyer or the seller would sign the documents at escrow and close on the property. Well, I represented a flipper, and I represented one of his flips. And I, helped them find the deal, helped them design the deal, sold the deal. And I remember, like, clear as day, you going down line by line and it says Brian Tran, $25,000. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. $25,000. I'm like, shoot, I'm going to go blow this. I didn't blow the money. But then I go down, and at the very bottom, the seller, when it says credit, $250,000, 10 times what I made. And this guy didn't do more work than me. I mean, nobody works harder than a realtor.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Amen.
Nobody works harder than a realtor. He didn't swing a hammer. He didn't do anything. He just like, all right, here's, we're going to buy this property. We're going to fix it up and we're going to sell it. And that's when I was like, okay, we're flipping real estate. Right.
Really. So
yeah.
How many closings did you have to go to before the light bulb went off like that?
I was averaging, year one, I probably did like 3 deals. Year two, probably another 5 or 6. Year three, a little bit more, probably like 12 or 15. So I would say like probably under 40, 50 deals. Because by that 5th year, I was actually starting to move. We were doing about $8 million in sales, but we're lucky, okay? Because my average sales price was 1.5, 1.6 million by this point.
Wow.
So, yeah, but I'm just like, yeah, this is kind of crazy.
Yeah,
so I jumped into flipping.
You had, what's interesting is you were starting to stack some success on the agent side, and just as you were arguably cresting that hill, you made a pivot away from it completely.
Not necessarily. So I'm a big believer that you never give up what's working until obviously now the next thing is bigger and makes a lot more money. Now it doesn't make sense for me to go do real estate stuff, realtor stuff. But I did both.
Gotcha.
Because realistically, what I found out was I actually found my first deal in Bernal Heights from a wholesaler. We bought the deal for a little under $1 million. I put $250,000 into renovation.
$1 million flip.
Yeah,
dude, that's sassy.
That's just
that's
well
wild.
Okay, well here's the thing. I know when I talk to people in the Midwest and they go $1 million, but it's no different than you buying $100,000 property. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why, because at the end of the day, it's not all my money, right? The hard money lender will give you 90%. And then now I actually have a fund with my private investors, and they fund the gap with 10% plus the construction plus the holding costs. So now I'm just flipping properties. I'm basically just the manager.
All right. Hold on. So you would go to the hard money lender and borrow at what, 14?
Way, guys, reach out to me.
Okay.
My new lender, they're trying to earn my business. I'm getting it in the they quoted me under 7.8%.
Shoot. All right.
Which is unheard of.
That is low.
But on average, I'm paying about 9%.
And then what was the 10% gap from the fund costing you?
9% interest only.
Man, so your blended average, you're right there at 8.5%. Yeah, 9%. Yeah. Wow.
And so, don't get me wrong. I'm writing a check every single month, $10,000 to $20,000 to my investors and my lenders, right? But as long as the deal has margins, who cares? Everybody eats, and we can make our money, right? So,
so that first flip was $1 million flip. How much did you put into it?
250 in. Okay. I was supposed to make 250, and I would have been happy. I honestly, if I made 100,000 at that point, I would have been happy.
Right.
Well, it took me, I made every mistake in the book. It took me a little too long and so on and so forth, all the rookie stuff. But it actually worked out in my favor because during this time, San Francisco was exploding. The property was in San Francisco. And what was once supposed to be worth 1.5 became 1.75 is what we sold it for.
Wow.
Made $500,000 the first flip.
And how old were you?
God, I'm 34 now. So what is that? 2018 was when we sold the property. So I'm 25, something like that. 25, 26.
So, okay, so you got to prove a concept, right? Okay, you watch the investors do it. Light bulb went off, said, I want to be on that side of the column. I want to be on the seller side of that line item, not just one line item on a settlement statement, right?
Yep.
Did your first flip for $1 million. took it full cycle, exceeded your expectations. Now you have a windfall money. Now what do you do?
See, this is where the immigrant mindset comes in. You don't blow it, right? I mean, it's $500,000, but don't forget, I live in California, and in my tax bracket, I'm paying close to 50%. So that 500 becomes 250 real quick. But being a good realtor, you know that you're supposed to farm the neighborhood to get the next listing, to get the next deal, whatever it is. I'm still doing real estate stuff, so I'm doing all of it. I don't care. If I can get a listing, I'm going to get a listing. If I can get a flip, I'm going to get a flip.
Yeah.
Well, I sent out letters to the surrounding neighborhoods, same Bernal Heights, and I found another deal just on the south side of the Bernal Heights. And I said, okay, well, let's buy this one too. And then that one made another $500,000. Wow. Long story short. You're like,
let's do it again.
And I'm gonna fast forward to you guys. Even now, there's a lot of flippers in the game. My margins are not 500,000 anymore, but there was a moment in time where the real estate market was exploding.
It's where the sellers didn't have the knowledge of where the market was going, and you bought here, and then you were able to hit that gap.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. And we're both in the real estate space. To make $500,000 GCI, that's $20 million in volume that you have to sell.
That's a lot of a lot of work.
And don't get me wrong. I'm guessing in Ohio that's probably, I don't know, 100 homes.
Yeah,
probably
80. Yeah, yep.
80. For me, a little bit better. It's like 20 homes, but they take longer. I got to put people in my car. I got to, it's just the time equation is just, at one point I get it down to a science. Every listing took me about 22 hours of actual work to get it sold. So my hourly rate was about, $1,000 an hour.
Yeah.
Every buyer took me about 30 hours. So buyers obviously take longer. Sometimes you get lucky, right? But you got to show them about 10 homes before they pick one, and then you probably lose out on that one, et cetera, et cetera. And with flipping, you don't spend 20 hours if you do it correctly. I mean, if you don't swing the hammer, and I don't swing the hammer, right? You're literally just like, all right, this is what I want on my kitchen. This is what I want on the bathroom. This is so-and-so, and the crew is working.
So
it may take
on your
6
first
months.
flip, what were the lessons that you learned? I'm sure you were more hands-on with that one than you wanted to be. So coming out of that, what systems did you put in place to make sure that you weren't spending exorbitant amounts of time?
Well, the main thing is that you just once you understand the timeline of how a flip works and when they need the tiles and the flooring by, you definitely order ahead. You have it shipped, right? And so now your contractor is supposed to pick it up anyways, and now we just have it shipped there. They can start work right away. The contractor spend an hour driving to the store, load it up, right? And so now they can just get to work. So that's one thing that we do. Another thing that we do now is a lot of our flips they look the same. And I know people hate me. Like, you never look different. There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
Like, you have extra paint, you move it to the next project. Now that next project gets cheaper. But if I keep changing paint, now I got a garage full of different paints.
You'll
right?
never use. You'll never
that
use
I'll never use. And you can't just throw away paint, all right? Like, it doesn't work that way. You can't just put it in the garbage can. And so that's the aha moment. And I this whole time, I never stopped selling real estate. I didn't stop selling real estate really until my daughter was born, which was in 2021. So that's when I said, all right, time is more valuable spent with them, not so much like Saturday, Sunday, doing open houses, showing homes, and going over disclosure reviews at 7, 8 p.m. at night. And that's when I kind of said, okay, what's more scalable here? Flipping, which doesn't require me to do an open house on Saturday and Sundays. I don't have to really do disclosure reviews or anything like that at night with clients. And so I started gearing more towards that.
Wow. So, man, here's what I appreciate about your honesty in that. We talk with a lot of people on the podcast, okay? And sometimes I'll catch somebody who's they're promoting kind of where they are, and they made it seem like they've always been doing that thing. And then you peek behind the curtain and you're like, man, it was kind of just like a like a Frankenstein's monster early on, to see what worked, what didn't, and then to kind of keep doing this thing that paid you to get this thing far enough to hit critical mass, and then you're able to cut off, some of the other stuff. So I appreciate that, because that's the reality. Most people don't find themselves in a situation with unlimited money in a knowledge base that they was just downloaded to them, and then they just head in a direction from the beginning. It's not that pretty.
Never that pretty. Oh my God. Even now it's not that pretty. Are you kidding me? It's just easier now because we have money to actually fund things. Yes. But back then you had to bootstrap everything.
Yeah.
And here's a golden nugget, guys. In the beginning, it will be long hours. It will be 14, 15, 16-hour days. It will be your blood, sweat, and tears. But if you're smart with your money, then you can leverage money and buy tools and or people.
Mm-hmm.
And that then leads me to my next nugget for you guys, is that it is always the who, not the how.
When did that click for you? I mean, because obviously it's a clickbait book. It was a great, time frame, but people were doing it before there was a book.
Yeah. Believe it or not, I was actually doing it before I knew what I was doing. Give you a prime example. Without going down the rabbit hole of what else I own, I own a virtual assistant company. One of the biggest, actually, in the nation. I own actually a chain of coffee shops. We just sold off some because I'm trying to scale back brick and mortar businesses. And I own property management and so on and so forth. I am not the CEO of any of them. I don't want to be. And I think I learned from, I think the prime example is that Warren Buffett makes more than the Coca-Cola CEO because he's the owner. Right. And that kind of clicked to me. I said, I just want to be the owner. I need to find a good operator. I'll make them partner, right? Give them equity, give them skin in the game, and their job is to go run it. Now, I'm not going to just stand back. Of course, I help what I can, strategy, funding, etc. Right? And I was doing that for the last. 2017 we opened up the VA hub. 2016 was when we opened up the coffee shop, and then. So I looked back, I actually really had the realization about the who, not how, just last year.
Wow. But it put a framework to what you'd kind of been doing, but it just kind of brought it to the forefront.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, so that's what I was doing this whole time. Guys, I'm not the smartest. I do things. And I think, another is that you just have to take action and you can't be afraid of failure. I screwed up so many times. I mean, the first flip was a screw up. The second flip was a screw up. When we opened up the property management company, and this was just last year, that was a screw up. I'm still screwing up every day.
Mm-hmm.
I just got to make a decision quick enough to try to fix the problem, and that's how it is. You get punched in the face and you keep going. You get punched in the face. Now I'm dodging.
Yeah,
I dodge left. I get punched left. And I'm like, okay, let me dodge right.
Right.
You know.
So here, okay. So you hit something good. Not being the CEO of a company, because your brain might just think, well, I own it, I should be owner and CEO. They kind of go together. But again, scaling, time freedom. And so, you got to have a business that you can create enough margin to put somebody in place to pay them as CEO. You got to be able to give up some equity in order to give them some ownership of it and keep them long term. So you're kind of like maybe taking lower profit margin in the grand scheme of things, but if you zoom out big picture, you're ahead, right? So if you would have stopped and took an ownership of that CEO spot in any one of those businesses, you probably wouldn't be in some of the other businesses you're in now, I'd have to imagine. Where did you find good people? Where did you find good operators for these businesses?
I mean, just to say that I didn't pick wrong ones, that'd be an understatement. I've also picked some bad people that, I thought would be really good operators, and it imploded in my face and cost me thousands, and some of them hundreds of thousands. But, you find people. Obviously, you can go through the Indeed route. You can go through friends and family. I kind of just watch people and how they operate. And, sometimes they are very good employees that are being underpaid or overlooked. And I usually just plant a seed and say, hey, what would it look like if you ran this place?
Because they're already in the company. They know the DNA, and you've been able to watch them in the company without them having that thing in their mind of like, I'm going for this position, because that changes somebody. if they think that something's owed to them or promised to them, they might portray themselves a certain way. But if somebody's being watched and they don't even know it, you get like a genuine look at who they are. I love the idea of hiring from within.
Yeah, so within is the best, and then obviously I go out and as I'm networking and I'm talking to different people, and I'm just like, wow, this person's with the right guidance and the right support, and that's really all it is. It's like sometimes they know they can do it, they know that it's in them, they just don't have anybody to like say push them.
Yeah,
and
to
they
draw
just
that out of them and say, I see this in you.
you just need that little nudge.
Yeah. Dude, I've been nudged a number of times in my professional career. And I remember, at those junctures, you're kind of like, man, are you sure? Like, I don't feel qualified for this. And having someone there to identify something in you and to see the potential of what it could be is huge. One of the questions I wanted to ask you, okay, so you did the flipping, you branched out into some other things, you've got the VA. There's all alignment. There's a hub in all of this. I mean, your VAs help you on the wholesaling side of things, right? There's this ecosystem that you've created. Arguably, the one that seems the most unrelated is the coffee shop chains.
That's why I'm back.
But one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, as the real estate market has changed, okay, you got in 2012, started flipping 2018, 2019, still a good time to exit these things as prices are climbing, probably until about, 2022, 23?
Yeah, I got really rough and shaky.
Okay, so when did you say, I need to pivot, or did you pivot in any of these things real estate related as the market's changed over the last 6 years?
1,000%. I mean, we're pivoting now. Give you a prime example. We usually do about 12 to 15 flips a year. Right. I know we don't do as much as like some people in the Midwest. You guys have to do a lot more to have your margins, but 12 to 15 flips takes about 5 to 6 months conversion. Right. And this year I told the team, I said, we're going to focus primarily on wholesaling and wholesaling. Okay. Why? I think what's going on with the marketplace right now, it's like the real estate market always lags behind all the other indicators. It moves the slowest.
Right.
Okay, when I look at things like, okay, we're in Silicon Valley, we're seeing massive layoffs, and here's what scares me. You see our GDP go up like crazy. We're reporting record numbers of GDP, and then we have a negative job growth.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That means companies are more profitable with less people.
Yeah, right.
AI is changing so much, and again, I have to be real. I'm in Silicon Valley, so now I'm looking at that and saying, holy crap, what does Q3 and Q4 look like 2026? Right? I think the stock market probably still going to go up because GDP is high.
Right.
Unemployment is negative. That means that it's more profit. So the stock market is going to do great. But unfortunately, a lot of our tech guys, they're not going to have a job.
Yeah, you're in a very kind of cyclical area.
So my buyer pool is going to shrink.
Yeah. Interesting.
And so now, if I'm wrong, right, then I missed out on an opportunity to making a boatload of money with the flips, right? But if I'm right, I'm saving myself a big headache and a bloodbath on our flips because we have holding costs.
Oh gosh, and you're talking about property taxes. Oh my gosh.
I mean, our average project is $20,000 a month.
That's crazy.
That's how much. And if your margins are 150, 160, if it sits on the market for two extra months, that's $40,000 right there.
Yeah. Well, and at some point, there's a progression in wealth building. Okay, so you start out early and you're scrapping and you're taking big risks because you don't have, right. So you're using your own effort, that sweat equity, and you're bringing in partners. At some point you start, you got a little war chest that you're working with and you're able to multiply that. And now it's calculated. It's okay. I used to take every opportunity, but now which ones do I take? And then at some point you're going to say capital preservation is of more importance to me than taking outsized risks like I used to early in my career. And that's you and your evolution saying, hey, I don't need to be, laying on the line to make this flipping work. I've got businesses that are working for me. And what I love about this, and I would advise this to if you're listening, find businesses that you can pivot in without completely being removed from the industry. So if 2026 is a wholesaling year for you, okay, fine. Next year, you're still in the market and all the systems are still in place for you guys to double down on flips if the market's calling for that.
Yep. You hit it. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not going to make money. I mean, I have people that rely on us. So, with that being said, I've learned that if you can actually become a very good wholesaler, you're going to have so many deals. You can pick and cherry pick the best flips, right? And so that's just the name of the game. You just have to roll with it. And you said pivot. I mean, that's how I'm pivoting. And capital preservation, I'm not quite there yet. I'm still considered a capital allocator. I'm just allocating it into different sectors, and flipping is not something that I want to put a lot of capital into right now because of the risk. But I am doubling down on property management.
Yeah.
Right. And we just acquired a smaller company, and so that's where I'm putting the money.
That's awesome. All right, man, Brian, we're going to go into what we call our smaller pockets.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brian, it's part of our show where you share with our listeners a painful story in real estate, one that didn't go so well. You mentioned a couple high level, but we really get in the weeds on what went wrong. What'd you learn from it?
Mm-hmm. All right. Oh my God. Let me see. Let me think about the one that I lost. Luckily, I haven't lost money on flips, but there's been some where it caused a lot of stress and I barely made like $2,000.
You lost sleep and made no money.
Yeah. Jesus. Okay. I think this happened actually just last year. We bought a beautiful house actually in a town called Danville. It's about an hour away from me. It without traffic, so it was kind of far. That was the first red flag. I shouldn't be buying things super far out because now my crew is stretched in. We have to go far to get there, to waste 2 hours of our day. But the margins were already kind of slim, right? And I was like, okay, it's already at like maybe 7% of ARV. But the goal was that we can get in and out super fast. It just needed to be painted, and the carpet needed to be clean, and landscaping. So I was supposed to be in and out in 2 weeks. Well, I was in and out in 2 weeks. The problem is the market had slowed down so bad, and work from home is not something companies are promoting now. And again, this is an hour out from the city of San Francisco, all that stuff. It pulled back so bad. And this is, again, I purchased it for $1.6 million, 1.6, almost $1.7 million, something like that. So, you imagine 9% interest on a hard money loan. My thing was like $16,000 a month with property tax and everything, with margins that are only 7%. And so it sat on the market and I'm losing $16,000. Not on top of it. Now, at the price that I thought I could sell it for, it wasn't going to move. So I had to drop the price so bad, I think almost $100,000, and I barely scathed by. I think I was prepared to lose, I think $50,000 or $60,000, right? But luckily the offer came in where it was like right there.
Right.
So again, I was like, oh God, we're losing money. Like, is this thing going to sell? And, so again, what I lost was my peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's very important. Like, I try to protect my peace at all costs right now.
Oh man, there's value outside of money all the time. People, it's for sure. Everybody makes decisions every day in order, it's driving that. People quit jobs that are corporate making $450,000 in benefits because they don't have, the lifestyle that they want. So, it sounds like got outside of your core competency in terms of geography. Your team wasn't quite ready for it. Maybe it was a compressed margin, and it really was dependent on an ideal outcome of getting in and out and the market staying. And some of that you can't control, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, interesting.
So again, we have a buy box. That's the thing, and I broke the rule.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, it didn't fit our buy box, but sometimes you're like, you know what, let's gamble this one, and that was stupid.
Once you start stacking successes and wins on stuff, that's when you get the temptation to be undisciplined, because you're like, hey, we did this, and you've you're entrepreneurial, so you've branched into other things, and man, that temptation is real. We've been confronted with a lot of different deals and opportunities that have been outside of our buy box that seem enticing at face value, and really we have no business in. All right, you give us a lot of great stuff. We're going to go to our last show segment called our Little Nugget. All right, Brian, give us here. I want to retool this question a little bit. So let's zoom out from real estate, entrepreneurially, kind of from a business success perspective. What's one of your core rules that you operate by that you would accredit the success that you found?
Oh, take action. You have to take action. And if you have 70% of the information you need, you run and you gun. Mm-hmm. Don't wait for 80. Don't wait for 90. It's never going to be 80 or 90%, right? And so I credit my success to just being kind of stupid that I'm just like, I can do it.
Yeah.
and like, like I'm the dumb guy that goes, yeah, I can do it. I can do it. And I just
overconfident, yes, but look at where I am now.
Yeah, I mean, and then, you screw up, and like I said, it's okay because your failure does not define who you are.
I know, man.
Only if you quit.
Yes, that's, dude, enough said on that. That is the truth. Well, Brian, this has been awesome, dude. You've given us a lot of really great stuff. I want to give people an opportunity to connect with you. What would it look like for somebody to follow your success, connect with you outside of this podcast?
Mr. Brian Tran on Instagram. That's where I'm most active in the DMs if you want to actually chat with me. But we are on TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, the whole shebang.
Awesome, man. Well, we'll put those in the show notes. Brian, it's been great to have you today. The lesson of today's story is take action. As always, excited that you joined us for another episode of the Reinvest Podcast. If you want to learn how you can use your hard-earned capital to diversify into real estate, go to our website, reinvestcapital.us, and shoot us a message. Move farther, reach higher, and grow deeper.